Hello, family. What's up? It's the one and only African Superstar. Big shout outs to the African Superstar family. It's good to be back again with the family. Yes. This is a live stream. I want to talk about this topic today as a result of my previous video that I just posted about the fact that I don't have children. I'm not married. You know, this topic has been coming up so much lately, and I kind of want to go over this topic in addition to some other things I saw on social media that kind of motivated it. So big shout out to the African Superstar family. Guys, when you come in the chat room, you already know what to do. Make sure you hit the likes. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel if you are not yet subscribed. I want to remind you guys for the very near future, I'm offering custom tours, quality time with me in Accra, Ghana. You can customize that tour with me at africansuperstar@gmail.com. Scrolling across the bottom of the screen, we also have a group tour coming up October 19th through the 26th. Mr. Taye, Uhuru, and I doing our annual collaborative tour. If you're interested in that, I would recommend you guys get your booking in soon. Yes, because the tour is coming up in October. And in order to give yourself time to prepare, you want to get your deposit in as soon as possible. That is, again, October 19th through the 26th. You can get full booking and itinerary at www.tayeahuru.com. Also, guys, last but not least, you can catch me on the program House of Clue. I have started appearing on that series. It's available on DSTV and Showmax. Any of you guys that have VPNs, you will still be able to see the program on DSTV and Showmax. I believe both of those carriers have apps, so you can download those apps. I know some people have been asking, where can I see the show? If you don't have a VPN, unfortunately, certain regions are not able to get it. So, but if you do have a VPN, you can view it again at DSTV and Showmax. Big shout out to the African Superstar family. I see you guys coming into the room. Also, for the African Superstar music lovers, make sure you are streaming our music. Some of you are not familiar with my music at all, so please take an opportunity to see what your African Superstar is producing, putting out there, and how she represents the community. Big shout outs to you guys. Looking for someone in the chat room. Is anyone there? Let me know where you're watching from and greet and be a part of the conversation. Today I want to share something I believe can be very, very valuable, especially in this generation. A lot of people are struggling with self-confidence. They're struggling with motivation. They're struggling with identity and, self-hate and all kind of complex emotional issues, especially those of us that have grown up in the Western world. I mean, I feel like it's just so prominent from what I have seen in the US and also in the UK. So I want to talk about my secrets, the secret to my confidence and what allows me to be a very, very productive person, a very ambitious person, and what some perceive as fearless. So I'm just waiting for one of you, any of you in the chat room, please be on code. Don't just be a spectator. This is standard protocol live streams. I just need to know that you guys can see and hear me. Before I get started on the topic, I see that there's about 5 of you in the room, so we're waiting for anyone to kick off the chat room. Big shout out to the African Superstar family. Let's start the timer, the 2-minute timer now. Hello. So we're just waiting for someone to get into the chat room after this commercial break, all right? One and only, I'm back again. African Superstar on the track. It's the weekend, and ain't no place I'd rather be than here with you, and you here with me. Yeah. Got the sauce, boy. It's a beach chill. You ain't gotta lie, come close and keep it real. Swear to God, already know how you feel. It's a beach chill. It's a beach chill. You ain't gotta lie,
boy, come close and keep it real. Swear to God, already know how you feel. It's a big chill.
Yes, African Superstar family. All right. Yes, that is a snippet from my song called Beach Chill. The official music video is here on YouTube, and that song is also available for streaming everywhere that you stream music: iTunes, Apple, Tidal, Amazon, Spotify, etc., etc. So do add us to your streams, get us on your playlist. You can also support me by collecting the EPs. They are currently available exclusively at bandcamp.com. I have 3 EPs out there. So big shout outs. Mr. Joe Mama is the first one in the chat room. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you for kicking off the chat room. Okay, today's topic is the secret to my confidence. Yes. So I actually got some correspondence from a friend of mine after I posted my last video, which is um, also a confession video talking about why at my big age, which my birthday is approaching, so I'll soon be 42. Yes, next month actually. And so, I posted this video kind of addressing yet again. I mean, I think I've been doing it pretty regularly over my time here on YouTube, expressing, you know, my marital situation and my, the children's situation and all of that. And, this friend of mine reached out to me and was like, Gina, you are just really, really fearless and bold. A lot of people, a lot of women are made to feel so guilty about, either being single or not having kids. But, in your case, you just kind of embrace it and you just kind of, talk about it. And you don't really have a lot of hangups. And there's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of reasons why I operate the way I operate. And I have to give a lot of credit to my mother. Big shout outs to my mom, who's all the way back in Columbus, Ohio. My mom taught me so many fundamental life lessons when I was growing up, and they have really helped me navigate this adult world in the challenging environment that I'm in. But one of the most fundamental messages that my mom taught me deals with, the reception of the world around you, potential rejection, and being ambitious and being relentless toward your goals, irrespective of what's going on in the world around you. And those are some of the key components to where my confidence comes from. Because I learned that not everyone is going to be your friend. Some of you have a lot of hangups with that, constantly seeking that third party validation, constantly waiting on God to do things for you, or waiting for your friends to get on board with you, or waiting for that potential partner that you hope for, or the job or career or the location or the education. You are always post dating your life and post dating your aspirations. That's something I don't do. I understood very young that everybody's not going to like me. And I think, as I recall specifically some of the instances my mom regurgitated that to me, I went to a predominantly white private school growing up in Columbus, Ohio, okay, called Liberty Christian Academy. And, you know, there were just a handful of other Black students. I think there were about 3 other Black girls. And I attended that school from kindergarten all the way up until 8th grade, when I went to ultimately the high school I graduated from, Fort Hays High School back in Columbus. Shout outs to any of my former classmates. I know I have some that do come and visit the channel. And so my mom was teaching me that, lesson of self-esteem, because obviously the environment that I was in, I might encounter, going to school with non-Black people, being a minority in that setting. It could definitely be an instance where you face bullying or you face racism. Fortunately, I didn't have those experiences until I went to university and school. But rightfully so, my mom was preparing me for the reality that, hey, you're not among your friends and family. You're not among even people that look like you all the time. So everybody's not going to be your friend. That's something that you guys need to understand. Okay. It will help you in life. It's something you should also communicate to your kids because that gives them the ability to function even if people don't like them. For others, it can be a huge hindrance because we know that the nature of people is very fickle. Okay. People flip flop on you, turn their back on you so much in your lifetime when you become an adult. I mean, it's unbelievable. If you can't cope with the fact that people that you know and love, or maybe had associations with, or people that you value, or people that you affiliate with, may not like you, may not be receptive to, that's the first hurdle. Okay. Um, the second thing is everybody's not going to like you romantically. Hello. Yet something else I see in society today. I mean, first trivia question for the African Superstar family is: do you know friends or family, or you included, that are in unhappy relationships? Let me see a number one. If you know anyone, you've heard the stories, you have friends and family, or God forbid it's you, but number one in the chat room. Shout out to the African Superstar family. I see that there's 10 of you here and I'm only seeing Joe Mama. So please get into the chat room, be a part of this conversation because, hey, I'm sharing my tips with you guys. I don't need the tips. The tips is for the general public. I'm activating and utilizing my tips to be great in this life. So this is for you guys. So please be a part of our conversation in the chat room. First trivia question: if you know someone that is in an unhappy relationship, essentially they're with someone who they don't like, the person doesn't like them, they're not compatible, the relationship is toxic, both parties or one party wants to leave, but they don't leave because they're just kind of intrinsically involved with each other, that would be a number one. Hello, are you guys there? Hello? Hello, are you guys there? I'll wait. I'll use this opportunity for another commercial break. I'm waiting. First trivia question: if you know anyone in an unhappy relationship, they're with someone they don't want to be with or not suitable for them, number one. This is not rocket science, guys. If you're listening to me, then just be a part of the conversation, okay?
My new song, Boom Boom, is a crazy banger. Oh my god. I hope you have that.
One and only
the African Superstar.
African Superstar on the track.
You're gonna wanna play it on repeat. Just listen.
International award winning. Yes.
Trust me. When it comes to lyrics,
in the
we don't
midnight
play.
hour, when I get next to you, butterflies in my tummy, and my heart goes boom, boom. In the midnight hour, when I get next to you, feels so exciting, and my heart goes boom, boom. There's nobody like you, you're my one and only. Since the day that we met, I remember, you've been driving me crazy. I love your brown eyes and your chocolate skin. Not ashamed to say it over and over again.
In the midnight hour, when your pretty eyes meet mine, if all it is a mesmerize, you will go down on your knees, say a little prayer for me.
Someone. Good morning, good morning. What's up, guys? I see Joe Mama, but Joe Mama, come on, bro. It's live stream. It's not that hard. I just asked for number one. For the first trivia question, if anybody knows anyone in an unhappy relationship, a number one. I mean, for God's sake. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. So today I'm talking about the secrets to my confidence, and a lot of them are fundamental lessons I learned as a child that have, stuck with me through my adulthood and led me into my current lifestyle. And this video is a response video to a friend of mine that contacted me after I posted, my last video about why I don't have children and why I may never have children. And, she just talked about an issue that's so sensitive for a lot of women, an issue where there's a lot of shame, or embarrassment, or, um, disappointment and all these things because women are, either feeling like they're behind in life or feeling like they haven't had success in relationships or whatever it might be. Or even in some cases, some ladies are infertile. So, that makes them feel like they're not capable of giving birth. And, there's a lot of feelings surrounding that. But I don't harbor those feelings because of what I'm talking about today. Thank you so much, Joe Mama. That's all I wanted. Thank you. Joe Mama is the only person out of the rest of you watching, um, that knows someone in an unhappy relationship. The first lesson my mother taught me that was so valuable was everybody's not going to be your friend. And essentially, you don't need everyone to be your friend. You don't even need a fraction of the people in this world, honestly, to be involved with you to still be successful and get your objectives achieved. What's more critical is being among those that are supportive and like-minded. So that gave me the ability to continue on my journey if people are not accompanying me, which is obviously one of my strongest suits. Led me into world traveling to over 20 countries, most of them solo, migrating to different countries way before it was popular, before my friends and family and peers could even understand the premise of why I was doing those things, venturing on to a new country and just embracing it and flourishing there. All these things are relative to that element of, you know, I know it's not popular. I know other people aren't into it, but it's what I want to do. And also, locating people along the way, including the African Superstar family, my social media community and things, people that are like-minded, though many of us are scattered around the world, as we can see from my channel. We have viewers everywhere. And that's just a testament to this mentality, my mentality, or similar things, not being as foreign or strange as it might seem in my immediate ability. The second thing that's so critical is this issue of relationship. Now, I know it's very popular in this generation. It seems like people want to entertain partners that don't like them. I would not. If I get the sensation that, for instance, I'm more into someone I'm dating than he's into me, or he doesn't really like me, or he has motives as to why he's there, very visible and obvious motives, um, I will not continue those relationships. Whereas a lot of my peers will, because of the void in this area. Now, don't get me wrong, I love men. Um, I'm not a feminist or any of that BS. I'm not a strong, independent black, what I'm saying? And I only exclusively date black men, but he got to be a certain caliber. And I don't care what else. One of the big challenges in my my personal dating world is geography. Okay, I choose to live in Africa because it's the best place for me to be. Like Joe was saying, talking about my looks and my appearance, and he's not the only one that has remarked on how youthful I look. Well, that's strategic. I exercise, I try to take care of myself, but also I try to focus on the other elements of maintaining my beauty and youth, which is reducing stress, making sure I'm rested, and having pleasure and enjoying life. These things are things that help you um, maintain a certain level of happiness and a great appearance in a lot of cases. When we look at people that are not looking well, there are people that aren't eating well, they're not sleeping well, they don't eat, they are not healthy, they might have health problems, too much stress, an unhappy relationship, a violent or abusive relationship. you know these things lead to aging yourself faster. Obviously, and yes, weather does definitely play a part in that. The African environment is much more suitable for me, at least. I can't speak for you guys, but being able to have that vitamin D, being able to sunbathe and living in a warm climate, the harshness of a cold environment, it takes its toll, and I know that, which is why I strategically place myself in a place where I believe, and I think it shows that I have a better lifestyle. And so all of this is part of that. But to go back to part two about you know, everybody's not going to like you, or the romantic piece. The romantic piece is a huge part of your life, guys. Trust me. The person that you choose to be intimate with, share your home with, build your life with, um, is a huge piece of the pie. If you get it wrong in that area, it spells disaster a lot of times. And some of you guys can attest to that because of divorces or because of ramifications of dealing with people that were not suitable for you. Um, Sometimes it leads into like psychological damage, because now when you try to move on from those relationships, you have all these issues. Oh, he's cheating, he's lying, he's abusive, all these things. Or she's using me for my money, she's not taking care of the kids, she's this, she's that. You carry those things into the next interactions, and it's just so very damaging. And so what I want to say is, I think knowing the fact that, okay, if someone is not mutually interested in me, I don't entertain those relationships. I would say if you guys are single and searching, don't entertain relationships where it's not mutual. One-sided love is terrible. It can be draining. And if your advances are not being reciprocated, some people can maybe perceive it as hard to get. There's a line where the hard to get is going to kind of fade in if the person is interested. If throughout the duration of your relationship, this person has never shown you interest, that's a great indicator that it's probably one-sided. And I wouldn't proceed with that. Okay. And the last lesson that my mom taught me in this perspective was find your tribe. Okay. So understanding that everybody's not going to be your friend and the world's not going to like you. And matter of fact, the more dynamic you are or the more innovative you are, you will receive so much backlash from people because you're different, and because they envy you or they don't understand you. And because you have the confidence to step out in front alone and go for it, you know. Um, but finding your tribe is valuable. And what that means is surrounding yourself with positive people, surrounding yourself with like-minded people, supportive people. That's going to be your benefit. I give you this example that every person who's ever been poisoned, or, something has happened to them. They've been attacked or, something tragic or violent or life ending. It always happened from someone who was in what? Proximity. Okay. These things have never happened across the world or from the sea to sea or anything like that. Someone always has to be close to you to be your potential downfall. The inverse of that is that positive people can help you flourish. If you surround yourself with positive people, they help you flourish. They can open doors for you. They can mention your names in circles where you wouldn't even be present, like, to shed some light. I have been sharing this on my members only content about how I recently got onto TV. Big shout outs to Amina. I see you there in the chat room. I got on TV in Ghana because someone recommended me for the role. There is a beautiful young lady named Dominique. She's a Facebook friend that I've never met. But obviously she heard of me and my journey to Ghana. So when she moved to Ghana, she reached out to me on Facebook and she introduced herself and said, she also does music. She also does acting. And so she just introduced herself to me and we just interact via social media. I post things, she likes it. She posts things, I like it. We comment on each other's things, that kind of thing. And apparently she auditioned for this role that I have and got the role. But unfortunately, she had a situation where she had to travel back to the US. And so, they asked her, was there anybody that she could recommend, for this role? Now, mind you, I've never met this young lady. I've never met this young lady at all. And I've never expressed to her interest in acting, and I never even really had it on my docket to investigate. And so, they called me and we had a word, and I assumed they probably looked at my social media or whatnot. So I do music, and I went to the set and had a meeting with um the casting director, and read some lines for them, and next thing I know, I'm on TV. I say all this to say that she shared that opportunity with me. She didn't have to. I came to her mind in that instance for some reason, and it's very fantastic. But these are the kind of people that you want to associate yourself with, not the kind of people that would try to either mess things up for you, or wouldn't want to help you grow, or wouldn't want to see you you know living a good life. You don't want to be associated with that. And I mean, at the end of the day, guys, you are what you eat. I think I've been able to avoid a lot of problems because I don't proactively associate with bad people. And a lot of people are attracted to bad people. They see them as lively, they see them as entertaining, or they're very narcissistic, thinking, yeah, I know, I'm running with this gangbanger, drug dealer, baby daddy, ex-convict, whoever. Um, but I'm not going to be a casualty of those lifestyles. And you can very well be a casualty of the company that you keep. And so the source of my confidence is being very strategic about who I associate with. I think that's a huge part of it. I refuse to settle in the relationship area. Like I was mentioning, one of the big challenges in my romantic life is geographical. I have dated men in the US, dated men in the UK, even met people in Ghana. I wouldn't say I really dated anyone that wanted to move specifically. If I knew he wanted to move abroad, I just wouldn't even entertain him, you know. But they want to be either in the Western world, and I want to be in Ghana. For some women, that's not a deal breaker. Some women have come to Ghana. I personally know friends that have come to Ghana, lived in Ghana, met their husband, and then they moved abroad with their husband. I'm not doing that. You see, so the more standards you have, per se, the less people fit those standards. But I realize that if I lower certain standards, like the geographic, if I lower that standard, it's only going to lead to problems in the future. Because if I know he wants to be in another location and I'm not willing to be there, then that's going to lead to problems. Like, what kind of relationship is that going to be? So I think avoiding things, seeing things as they are, accepting things as they are, and not letting other people's thoughts and opinions impact my life. Yeah, somebody can come and tell me that Ghana's not good for them. And I can, empathize with the conversation. Maybe if they've even come to Ghana and they haven't had success in Ghana, I can, I'm a great listener. But their experience has nothing to do with my experience. You know what I mean? And I think the more you cultivate confidence, the more you are able to assert your own life unapologetically. And two things can be true at the same time. Ghana may not be good for someone, but it's also good for me. The same way somebody could be living it up in America, living it up in England. Meanwhile, I didn't have that same experience. You see, and I think sometimes our desire to align with people or make people align with us, we spend too much time in that area, when we can just be mature and say, you know what, look, I know it didn't work out for you, but I'm resolute on my decision, about this. And this is where my confidence comes from. Just being able to be very in tune with myself, understanding the nature of people. I think if you also study people, which I've talked about this sometimes on the channel, I've begun to categorize situations that I encounter as in, is this a human nature category? Okay. Or is this a Gina specific category? And with that, let me break that down. So for instance, when we think about racism, okay, racism has been ongoing since the beginning of time. There has always been racial disparity, and then tribal disparity and conquest and wars, and all this stuff has been going on since the beginning of time. Okay. So, whereas I see some of my peers, a lot of my peers getting very emotional about racism, for instance, in America, or getting very emotional about racism in the Western world. We know about racism. Racism has predated our existence and it will outlive. Okay. So this is one of the instances that we can put into the human nature category. When I classified that racism was a human nature issue, the next thing down the line was environment. Okay. If racism is indigenous to the Western world, which it is, if racism has predated my existence in the Western world and it's going to also outlive my existence in the Western world, then it is correlated to this environment. How can I override this situation? That's how I came to the answer of changing my environment. That's when I started to world travel, travel internationally, to get an understanding of, okay, where could I potentially live more peaceful with this issue? You see, I went to South Africa, and South Africa was out, despite its infrastructure and its beauty, and, had a lovely trip there. It was out because ain't no way. I don't want to live with them in Africa. I don't want to encounter racism and all the same things from the Western world in Africa, period. I'm not into that. And as I began to tour, I went to Kenya, and I wasn't really that happy with, the very westernized mentality of the people that I met in East Africa. They were just too westernized, in my opinion. And then also the weather in Kenya wasn't crazy about it because it gets a bit colder there. And so, I began to tour, and then I honed in on Ghana. And I was like, oh my God, and it literally is the place of unbridled freedom for me. And that's how I came upon it. But I say all this to say that it comes from evaluating situations. Some of you, a lot of our people, are busy wasting energy in human nature problems. Okay. Problems. And how do you identify a human nature problem? This is very critical. Identifying a human nature problem, again, is something you can evaluate has predated your existence and will likely outlive your existence. Okay. It's an issue that's happening all around the world. Okay. So that's how you know it's not a Gina problem. It's not an Amina problem. It's not a Blockavelli problem. Okay. Now, if I go out and I go assault somebody in the street, and the police come and pick me up and take me to court, and now I've got court cases and, all this stuff, that's a Gina problem. That's something that I directly created for myself by my own actions, and something I can either rectify or something I'm going to have to deal with. That's a specific Gina problem. If you are 100 pounds overweight, okay, and It's impacting your self-esteem. It's impacting your clothes, maybe your job, your love life, your sex life, all this stuff. That is a Gina problem. Okay. That means that I can put in effort to resolve that problem and or I cause that problem. Human nature problems are problems that predate your existence. So that means 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. We know just based off the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, over 400 years ago, that our people and their people have never got along. That their people have used violence and colonialism and colonialism, to deal with and subdue our people. We know these things. That is a human nature issue. And that's something very unlikely that you're going to be able to deal with. So then once you evaluate, okay, no, this issue is bigger than me. How can I still find a happy ending in this situation? For me, changing my environment was the solution. Removing proximity to the problem solved it for me. And I know maybe everyone can say, well, you can't just pick. Okay, that's fine. Then you go through the list for yourself of evaluation and you look at your human nature problems versus your individual problems and you work out how you're going to solve your problems. This is another source of confidence for your African superstar. Okay. Another source of confidence for your African superstar is I strive to solve my own problems. Yes. In a world where everyone doesn't want to be accountable, hello, doesn't want to take responsibility, doesn't want to be a role model, doesn't want to be a leader, I take it on. I embrace it, I accept it, and I use my intelligence to solve my own problems. And as I solve problems, it increases my confidence. You see, because it gives me, it proves, it's the validation that I'm capable of solving my problems, which means when other problems come up, I know that I have the capability to also address those. You see, and some of you lack in self-confidence because, hey, at the end of the day, you don't have any accomplishments. What bragging rights do you have? I don't flex a lot, but I could. And when the time comes, I do, because I have a track record that backs up success, that backs up productivity, that backs up, walking it out like I talk it. And this is a source of confidence. Taking problems from start to finish, working out the solution, not waiting on God, not waiting on the Democrats, not waiting on Parliament, not waiting on world peace or the UN or any other external factor, but you. Figuring out your own problems will give you an immense amount of confidence. And this is why, I've talked about it throughout my proximity series. This is why the Western world does not promote problem solving. Okay. They need the general population to be in deficit of the ability or the concept of solving their problems due to consumerism. About probably about maybe 50, 60 years ago, it wasn't uncommon that a lot of people had trades, trade knowledge. People knew how to build their own houses or farm, or they worked as mechanics or, carpenters or shoe repair people. You could find repairsmen and women abundantly. Now, as we fast forward to this modern day, people can't, people are very, very inept of skills. And what does that translate in? Paying an external third party to do things. Now, if you had skills to do things in your house or regarding whatever it is you're working on, you don't have to pay that third party. You see, so I believe that my generation has deliberately been rendered useless in a lot of ways so that we become the consummate consumer even more. We have to pay and outsource our services and every little thing. Either when it comes to clothes or appliances, we're going to discard those things because they're so cheap that we can just replace it instead of fixing it. Most of us can probably recall our grandparents repairing things, fixing things. If the refrigerator broke, they would get a repairsman to come in and fix it. If the TV broke, or whatever repairs on the house, very very often, very very seldom did we just dispose of things. Back then, we would try to repair and patch and sew and fix things, but nowadays we don't. And it all has to do with consumerism, but that's another topic. But these are the sources of my confidence. Not really being swayed by external factors or opinions. Choosing wisely of who I have in my circle, who I surround myself with, who I'm romantically involved with. Solving my own problems, and it gives me a source of pride and confidence that emanates, and I think a lot of people see it. And I want to encourage some of you other folks that you are very very impacted by the world, what people are going to think about you and how it looks and how it seems. When it comes to this issue of my love life, women are judged irrespective of what they do. If you're in a bad relationship, people are going to judge you. If you're single, they're going to judge you. If you have kids, and maybe you're a single mom, they're going to judge you. If you don't have kids, they're going to judge you. So I've been able to cultivate my happiness. Okay. I like my lifestyle. I don't want struggle life. I'm anti-struggle life. Okay. I'm pro soft life. I'm pro good life. Um, I'm not going to willingly go into situations I know the probability is high that this thing is going to have a negative impact on my life. Going into relationships with people that are not suitable, the probability it's going to have a negative impact on my life is high. And parenting is very hard. And attempting that on your own, for me, it's the probability of a negative impact, So I avoid situations that I've deduced are not going to be good. And I guess maybe a lot of this goes with being an intellectual, being proactive, thinking about things and planning things before they happen and not just dealing with the fallout. But yeah, these are some of my secrets to my confidence. Okay. Big shout outs. Amina, I see there, sweetheart. She says, I agree on not wasting time and energy on human nature problems. Such a drain. Traveling to Africa helped me to let that go. Big shout outs to Amina. I'm really happy that had that effect on you. Because at the end of the day, like I said, these problems that predate us and that are going to exist beyond our life, what impact, like what can you really do? Huh? What can you as the individual really do to transform maybe centuries old problems, systemic issues, And so I believe in putting energy into vehicles that are promising, focusing on what I can do, how I can impact. And a lot of those things is immediately the way you live your life, because that's the most relevant to you. Whether whoever sits in the White House or whoever sits at the Jubilee House in Ghana, I'm focused on Gina's immediate reality. And some of you guys are like, no, we can't just focus on, ourselves. We need to focus on everybody. Okay, well then you are scattering your little bit of energy on huge problems where the probability is not in your favor. Not to say things can't change and all of that, but I've just gauged from people that have given like the ultimate investment to change the world, which is their life. Okay, I ain't talking about Jesus Christ. I'm talking about people like Malcolm X and Thomas Sankara and, these people, freedom fighters that literally gave their life. Okay, we don't really know when it comes to religion about these deities because nobody's ever seen them. But men that we know lived and died for the cause is who I'm talking about. Are you ready to make that ultimate sacrifice for global warming, for police brutality, for this and that. If you're not, then you should focus on the individualized problems that you can, your probability of changing them is huge. If those examples I gave, if you are 100 pounds overweight and you drop that weight, that's a huge impact to your daily life. Okay. Your daily life is going to change and transform because of that. All right. Now, these external things, whatever happens, and I mean, it's unfortunate. We do receive some impact from the decisions of those up high. But again, what can we do about it? I don't know. That's another topic for another day. Big shout outs to those of you guys that were here. We only had 2 of you in the chat room, but I know you guys were listening. And I hope that this message goes out to some of you struggling in some of the areas. Hopefully, this can help you simplify your life and be more productive and successful. And I want to also let you know I do offer mentoring and consultations. If you want to talk to me one on one to maybe help me strategize, some of your plans or your move to Africa, or just, how to be more effective in your life and leadership, I'm happy to take that time out one on one and do that. So if you're interested, get in contact with me at afrikansuperstar@gmail.com, and we can set that out and set that up and work that out. Okay. So take advantage of these services, because I tell you guys, I'm about to delve into this acting, and I might be unreachable. Hello. So take advantage of having access to me while you have it. Don't be down the line, oh Gina, I've been trying to email you. I'm sorry. I'm in Cannes. I'm at the film festival and here and there. I'm sorry. Don't have that time. Big shout out to the African Superstar family. Thank you to everybody who stayed.